Right, welcome back, and let us continue with this conversation on GBV. Remember, this month, the month of March, is the month of celebrating the International Women's Day, but we are focusing on some of the challenges that we face, questioning whether there's something to celebrate about. We were talking about ending FGM in the country. Of course, that is something that we have always talked about it, how to end it, but we're still not there. Perhaps you can continue talking to us about what the problem is.
See, the fact that we are having this cultural norm that does not find it a problem continues to challenge us, because no matter how much law is being put in, you can imagine there was a law before, there's a law that is there. There are even policies around it. There are government commitments on it, you know, and yet we are still not eradicating. Okay? So that means there's got to be conversations around it, like what is making it thrive? What is the gain? Who is gaining from all this? You know? It's not enough to just say that girls themselves are, you know, in some communities we'll even have the stereotype around the person who has not gone through the cut are so bad, and the derogatory terms that are used on the person are so bad that that person, more often than not, might feel pushed to actually
Do the cut.
Almost say that they are consenting. But you can tell it's not consent, it is just coercion, because everyone, that's what they expect. And in fact, the law, the anti-FGM law, actually punishes anyone who uses a derogatory term trying to insinuate that one has not gone through the cut, because that the society has really pushed and made fun and foolish and negatively related to people who have not gone through the cut. And now, even in the last census, in the last KDHS period reporting, you saw that there are some places like Central Province where ordinarily people would imagine the cut is not happening, but the cut is happening, and worse still, to even adult women.
Yeah.
And part of the nuances that the society is continuing to keep are that, for example, that a woman who has not gone through the cut cannot serve her adult sons. So you can imagine, you're a woman of integrity, you've brought up a family, you have big children that you've brought up in the best way you know how, and now all of a sudden you cannot serve them food because you're not woman enough. You know? So there are these cultural, traditional
Actually, there are others who say the bride price determines whether, if you cut, your bride price is higher.
Yeah, and it's a whole bad rhythm, because even that bride price, why is it even there in the first place? I mean, you get, why should it bother anyone? So we've got to start seeing an abuse for an abuse. We have to stop glorifying and really celebrating when these things happen. My concern about implementation, more often than not, is look at our structures in a county or at the national level. We go to the counties where now we will have the administrative channels. We have a county commissioner who has deputy county commissioner, who has an assistant county commissioner, who has a chief, who has, you have all that line. You have a county itself, which even has ward administrators, village administrators, meaning the government is not far from the people. Yes. So who are these who have the guts to continue to do the cut, to continue to violate women, to continue to perpetuate crimes in the midst of so much government? Yes. So much government, so much law enforcement, you know? Many people at the local area, they would run to the chief, they run to Nyumba Kumi, they are within, you know? The Nyumba Kumi in its design is that they're just about 10 households, you know? But who are these that have these guts? So the level of impunity is also very high. That what will be done? You know, who is getting punished? So there's need to punish. There's need to actually, towards prevention, we have to deter. You know, because it has to stop making sense to do it. Otherwise, as long as someone doesn't get consequences, as long as the consequence is a small, maybe backlash, maybe tongue lash, then there's no punishment. They've got to go through punishment. There's got to be prosecution of these cases in a way that even bail is not easily available. And I know it's a constitutional right to have a bail, but again, it's at the discretion, depending on how much you can intimidate the witnesses. So that it can be punitive, so that someone can actually get some loss. You know? Yeah. You don't gain anything. There's got to be no gain, but more for loss if you practice some of these offenses and crimes.
Right. So most of the time when we're speaking about GBV and all that, we're castigating the man. So what role does the man have in ending GBV, not only in the country, in Africa, but also in the world? What role do they play?
Oh, the men are a big ally. Men have a big role to play. And thankfully, at the way the gender sector works, it has 4 thematic groups, and it has always had 4 thematic groups. And recently, last year, a new thematic group came up, male engagement, which is a very welcome idea, concept, group, and partners. Men as an ally is a big step forward, because most of the offenses, gender equality has to speak to both men and women, because even where a crime happens, it happens with the male in the picture. Look at when we talk about child marriages. Who is marrying the child? There's a male in the picture. You know, when we say that I'm afraid of buying a property lest someone feels, who is that someone? There'll be some man who might be making me feel inadequate to buy a property. You know, when we talk about sexual harassment at the place of work and I'm not getting a promotion unless I sleep with a certain person, there's a man in the picture. So men have a big role to play, because they, one, are part of the society. They represent the other 40-something, 49% of the population, but also because they also understand how the society is constructed. And they are men that have strongly said no to violations. So they have better tongue to convince the others about pushing forward gender equality and really stopping violations, be they subtle, be they overt violations. Look at even where we easily discriminate against women when it comes to leadership. It will take men to push. Right now, even when we look at like the current debate around the not more than 2/3 gender principle, when a bill goes to parliament, it needs men engagement to really engage and vote for it, because we have fewer women in leadership. For them, their vote won't be enough. Okay, so men as an ally is a big step forward. And at UN Women, we strongly believe in really pushing forward. I know in Kenya there's always this joke, oh, men conference, or we actually receive men conference with a lot of stereotype and stigma. It's as if it's a club that is out to oppose women's development. You know, a joke like maendeleo ya wanawake ni kama maondoleo ya wanaume. You know, no, just the well-constructed men engagement is very useful.
All right, the country, of course, has this vision of, trying to end the GBV cases in the country by 2030. Is it a pipe dream? Can it really be achieved if we have men being behind the camera, taking photos of a man batting or rather hitting a woman? Do you think we're going to get there?
We should get there, because, we don't have to stop one by one. It means that everyone who is battering another person can stop today. You don't need to say, you stop Nani before I stop. Like, it's not a queue. It's something that can be done simultaneously. All the battling can end, you know? All gender discriminative tendencies can end. But of course we started somewhere, and government made, for example, the generation equality commitments to try and say that in our generation, we will get gender equality, that government will have sufficient policies to stop violations, that budgets would go a long way in ensuring that prevention activities, initiatives are put in place, that response is put in place, that there'll be shelters for those that have nowhere to go when they are battered, that there'll be funding that would assist someone who really needs to wake up, to stand up on back to their feet, to be able to say no to violations, to reduce vulnerability. For those women that are going through a hard time due to climate change, for example, and you can imagine you are experiencing environmental issues, and domestically you're also being battered. So you have no food in the house, and you can go nowhere to even get food. So how are they cushioned? How does the country place itself to be able to cushion? And we have counties that now have resources to be able to say, in this county, whom do we have? A county has men and women. A county is talking for the people. The essence of the county is to have people close to, to have government closer to the people, and to have service provision closer to the people. So if all this is established, if government then ensures that things are in place, gaps that have been established, that have been seen, are starting to be covered, battling can happen. Can stop happening. It would take the police to actually show by example that prosecution of cases is swift.
But don't you think that is the problem? Because if we are saying that, for example, in a village there's a chief, there's the there was a kumis and the likes. Now we have a police officer. Perhaps maybe there are people who are used to getting away with anything. They can batter you today, they'll get away with it. They can't batter me, they'll get away with it. So do you think really it's helping, or it will help?
Well, it should help, and we should not give up. We should have people held to account. Law enforcement agents have a responsibility. They are on a duty. They are a duty bearer. Government, and now through the police, for example, have a duty. Government, through the courts, have a duty. Government, through the county governments, have a duty. So they are a duty bearer. The rest of us are associating. The rest of us are supportive. Otherwise, the main duty, when my auntie in Subukia gets a problem, she does not expect support from anywhere else apart from the government. And that's why they will run to the chief to seek for the support. So the main duty bearer is the government. And so the government just needs to push forth issues of implementing. And so the other complementary services that are provided by maybe development partners, private sector, international organizations, UN agencies, you and I, communities, then they are supplementing, they are complementing something that is already formidably happening. But you're not replacing, because if you find the gap is so glaring, you'll just be like, oh, watcha, we leave it alone. But if things are already happening, it will be easier to input. And so during times like this, during months like this, then government then should be able to assess, should be able to call stakeholders and really assess what are the gaps. All right. I know right now there's a country report, because government will still go to New York to report on the status of women in Kenya. So there's that report that then it means stakeholders have come together and they've been led by government to look and assess what is the status of women in the country and what are the gaps. And what do you recommend? What do we do to narrow these gaps?
Okay.
You know? So should it be in leadership? Should it be in economic empowerment? Should it be on the issues we are talking about on gender-based violence? What these glaring gaps, how do we bring them to close?
All right. And as we come to a close, perhaps you can give us a parting shot on why we should celebrate International Women's Day despite all that.
Well, I think we are created, we are well, and we should celebrate ourselves, okay? Because almost like if we don't, who will?
Yeah.
Okay? So we should celebrate ourselves. So it's a month. So spoil yourself and say you're powerful because you are.
Yes.
Okay? And that you will survive and you will make it. And so we will, so therefore us as women, we will play our part in pushing forward. And in playing that part, of course, we will be the first to say no to violations, whether it's to us or to other people, you know, but also that we will not bystand and that we'll stand in solidarity with all those that need us.
All right. Thank you, Mary, for sharing those insightful thoughts with us.